district, we have 44,000 Key Clubbers. Key Club is the largest high school service organization in the world. They're all over the world. Kiwanis has sort of tightened up a little bit their youth protection guidelines, because as our service leadership programs grow, more and more people becoming involved with the kids, from K-Kids to Builders Clubs, to Key Clubs, and of course Circle K. And they wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of what the guidelines are. So I'm just going to hit some of the highlights here. The big thing, of course, is chaperone. They changed the ratio. The ratio, if it's an overnight trip, is now 10 to 1. And it's also gender specific, which means if we have a school that has 9 boys and 1 girl going, they still need 2 chaperones, because it's gender specific. And believe me, we've had some challenges this decon, making sure we had enough female chaperones to cover a lot of the girls that are going, and that's, we knew that ahead of time. But chaperoning, got to be, it's okay if you're on, it's a day event like a DCM or something, it's still 12 to 1. But also keep in mind that we are stressing, Mrs. Pong and I are region advisors, and we're always stressing to the Key Clubbers, you can't have an event without chaperones. And last year we had to cancel one of their events because they didn't have enough chaperones. And we try to impress upon them the reason for that, of course, is your own safety. You know, being out there in the park, out in the public, we want to make sure there's enough adult supervision. So chaperoning. Chaperones have to be 21 years old or older. And who can be a chaperone? Well, it can be a Kiwanis member, of course, faculty member, parent, legal guardian, or what they call a person who is in local parentis, in place of the parent. We got to be sure that when we had a couple of instances where Key Clubbers got these 18 to 19-year-olds that former Key Clubbers to be chaperones. They can't. They can't be. They have to be 21. If you look under reporting, it says, if a Kiwanian observes troubling behavior involving a youth at a Kiwanis event and becomes aware of the situation as illegal or potentially unsafe, he or she must immediately contact appropriate personnel. Well, what do we mean by troubling behavior? And I have the definition here. Troubling behavior is, let me see if I can find it. Okay, includes, okay, all forms of abuse, behavior not in accordance with Kiwanis guidelines, illegal behavior by a youth or adult, or any behavior that causes your internal voice to say something is not right about this. And that's a good point. In your gut, if you see something, for instance, I'll give you a good example. On Sunday, we have the Mystery Authors Luncheon, Anaheim Public Library Foundation, and we have Key Clubbers that work that. We also have a bar in the room. Key Clubbers are not to go near the bar. And the other point that we make it very clear is any Kiwanian may not approach or talk to a Key Club with a drink in their hand. That is just not appropriate behavior. So if we see something like that, it is up to us to make sure that we let people know. Overnight stays, again, very, very important. That's where your chaperoning comes in. That's very, very strict. Coming up decon next week, we have very strict codes of conduct. And it's more than just about boys going to girls' room and girls going to boys' room. There's all kinds of other things on the code of conduct that everyone signs, including advisors, before they go. Last year we had a problem when these enterprising young men thought, oh, I'm not supposed to go in another person's through the door to the next room, so I'll jump over the outside balcony. Well, they went home. The parents had to pay for them to fly home a couple days early. So we do have sergeant-at-arms that are on, all the hallways are monitored for the 12 o'clock curfew. We have a lot of Circle K support us in that. They're out in the hallway all night, make sure nobody's sneaking out. Transportation, here's something that they don't talk about, but it's something that we call the rule of three. And I'll give you a good example of this. Mrs. Pong and I are, as regional advisors, are tasked with driving the lieutenant governors to the board meetings. There's 2 in Rancho Cucamonga, and there's one way up in Santa Maria. So I have to pick up 4 of the lieutenant governors. Mrs. Pong drives 3. I cannot pick them up one at a time. The rule of 3 is that you've got to have at least 2 adults in the car or 2 key clubbers in the car at one time, never alone. So that's the rule of 3. So when I pick them up, I have it arranged that I pick up the first 2 in Fountain Valley and the next 2 together at Norm's on Euclid in Anaheim. So I'm never alone in the car with one. And that's the rule of 3 is very, very important. So keep at least 3 people in the vehicle. Medications, anyone going to decon, anyone going on an overnight trip, you know, they have to have what they call medical release form. And on that form, it says whether they are taking any medication. The parent has to sign it, has to give the name of the physician or whatever in case it's an emergency. Now here's a big one that everybody asks about. What about a background check?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the rule. If you are an advisor to a key club, you have to have one. Now I had a complaint from a teacher. I'm a teacher. Why do I have to get one? Well, they do. And the reason is Kiwanis International wants on record everyone that is advising to be background checked. Yes. Okay, those of you that attend DCMs, you're just there during the day for a couple hours. Let me show you at the bottom of the page, it says, any member serving as an advisor, of course, has to have a clear background check. Now the next sentence is where it covers the rest of you. It says, clubs are strongly encouraged to ensure confidential background checks for all adults who will be working directly with youth outside of the school or who may not have undergone a background check. So even if you're going to a DCM or whatever and you're attending one of the events, you should have a background check. Those that go to district conventions, the district pays for your background check. If you have to pay for it yourself, it's $25. It only takes like a minute to fill out the form. So better be safe. If you're going to work with the youth at incapacity, get a background check. Personal information, one of the things that we have lots of stacks of are, of course, the medical release forms, which I keep for the whole year for the lieutenant governors, but also the medical release forms. Anything that they sign is supposed to keep it for 3 years. So that's the other thing. Youth and social media. As you know, a lot of our key clubs, they get the word about their events out through social media. They're big on social media, of course, Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. Instagram, I guess, is the big one now. But the rule is no adult may institute or instigate a connection on social media with a youth. Key clubbers have to contact you. As a matter of fact, we had an incident where a key clubber wanted, somebody wanted a phone number. Well, they have to go through, the key clubbers have to contact them and not you contact them. So that's very, very important. If you look at your little test there, if you've got one, the chaperone again must be how old? 21 years of age. And the ratio, of course, is 10 adult males to, 1 adult male advisor to 10 youth, and the same with female. We should say there should be at least 3 people in the car, and at least 2 should be adults. But in some cases, if you have 2 key clubbers together in the car, that's okay. True or false? An adult may give a youth over-the-counter medication at a Kiwanis event.
No.
No, they may not. They may not. Now this is a little weird wording, but when is it never appropriate to use alcohol or tobacco in an event conducted primarily for youth or organized by youth members? It's always never appropriate. That's a weird way of saying it. Okay. When you witness troubling behavior, report it immediately to the be the proper personnel. If it's, of course, if it's emergency, it's something else. They do have, and I noticed this, I went through the training on this, it said they do have something called the National Child Abuse Hotline, which is 1-800-4 number a child, if it's that serious. But the other thing is, we are not counselors. We are not to counsel the key clubbers. And Mrs. Bong and I, because we deal with the lieutenant governors, we always advise, but we never counsel, especially when it's personal. That's not what we're supposed to be doing with them. We're there to advise them. So we do not get into any personal, because we're not trained psychologists or whatever, so we do not get into that. Again, documents, 3 years. There is a Youth Protection Week that's coming up. It's going to be in September of this year. And we're asking, and there'll be more coming up from Kiwanis on this, that the club, that you devote a club meeting to the issues. Now here's something that's very important. When determining which policy to follow, always defer to, and what we say here is the highest standard possible. And this comes into account when you're dealing with school districts. Some of our school districts have very, very strict policies about overnight stays for the kids. We just ran into that when I went to meet with the principal. One of the things the new lieutenant governors have to do, they have to meet with their principal to introduce themselves. And Mrs. Bong and I go with them. And we were at Westminster High School last week, and the principal said to the lieutenant governor-elect, did you put in the 45-day request for the overnight? Because they have to get out of school next Thursday to fly up to Sacramento, so they're out of school Thursday, Friday, and she didn't know about the policy. So he said, well, let me check with the district. And it turned out, he said, if you can find another faculty advisor that's going from our district, this is a Huntington Beach Union, I'll be okay with that. Even though we didn't, but here's where the rule let us off the hook. The school district policy is, if it's a Kiwanis event, they don't need the school's permission. If it's a school event, they need the school. So we tell the key clubbers, find out what is your policy at your school for overnight, and also, here's another good thing we tell them, find out what is the policy of the school and how you access money out of your account. Some of them say, oh, I need money in 2 weeks to pay my decon registration. Well, the policy is you have to submit it a month or two at a time. So those are more important things in dealing. But these, again, these guidelines, we're following them. They're strict. We make sure that the code of conduct and the youth make sure they're protected. And that's what this is all about. And also I want to just take this opportunity to thank you, Mrs. Pong and I thank you all, because without you, they cannot have the events they have. And you all are terrific. At Division 30, I must tell you, I could blow our horn a little bit here. We're probably the best district as far as chaperoning is concerned. We have great turnout at the DCMs. We had one in another division, 200 kids were there and one chaperone. But Division 30 has always stepped up to the plate, and I thank you for that. So any questions I may be able to answer for any of you?